Okay. So we completed required payables configuration. Now we'll just look at transaction process. So we'll see invoice creation, standard invoice creation. So our username is Google. Fine. Go to navigator. So sorry. So within the navigator, we can see the payable section. Under payables, we have a different tasks. To create the invoices, we have to navigate to invoice workbench. Click on invoices task. So this page we can call as invoice workbench, as you see the name here, or simply you can call as invoice work area. Okay. So in Fusion we use the term as a work areas for anything you navigate and just do with see if you have some page which allows you to perform multiple activities related to transaction, that simply you can call as work area. Fine. To create the invoice, click on task list. This you can call as task list or task panel or task pan. Click on task list. It will open the tasks which this user can have access. So these all tasks we are able to see here because of the three roles which we assigned. From which role, which task access we are getting, that we'll see later. Okay, fine. To create the invoice, click on create invoice task. Okay, we'll understand all those tabs which you see in the landing page. Fine, done. Now the first point here is business unit selection. Okay, the PO creation based on PO invoice creation that we'll see later as a part of P2P cycle. Now just we'll focus on invoice creation, manual invoice creation, which we can call as standalone invoice creation. Okay, this is the invoice creation page. Okay, fine. So the same structure remain as EBS, header, lines, and distribution. Okay, header and lines here below lines. For each line you can have a distribution. We'll go more detail level. And here we have a business unit field. Click on LOB. So we are able to see multiple business units here. We're able to see multiple business units from this user. Any guess on this point from anyone? Why we are able to see these many business units from this user? If you remember, for this user we assigned three payables related roles. To those three roles we assigned only one business unit. That means this user should have access to payables related any functionality for only one business unit, that is Google US business unit. But other than Google US business unit, this user is able to access many other business units also. What could be the reason? Anyone please? Just any guess, that's all.
Reference common
Sorry?
creating that BU. We had taken reference it as common while creating that BU.
Okay, we take an reference data set. Reference data set we selected as a common. Then what is the issue with this? Yes, we selected common. Then
That common, I think, for all other BUs, might be this common is same. Might be because of that.
if common is same for all other BUs,
Yeah, in that case, I think those BUs will come under this one as well.
mm-hmm.
under responsibility as well.
Okay. So any other guess on this? Why we are
Maybe the
able to
profile options.
access these many business units from this user? Yeah, please.
Maybe the profile options. How we make the GL adjustment category as a default. We need to make a default business unit for this.
My question is different. I am not asking how to set default. I am asking user called as Google is able to access these many business units. What is the reason I am asking? I am not asking how to set one business
Easily
unit
the
as default.
implementation.
Sorry?
It could be that Google could be implementation user for all those business units projects.
Implementation user. Because to get more clarity on this, what we guess I am asking this question. That's all. Any other
Uh,
guesses?
I think there is another option is that role that we had assigned. Might be that role has the access for all BUs. Might be
Role has
access for all
to
BUs.
all. Okay. Any other guess? So we'll get some clarity on this point. That is the reason just I'm asking that question, or else straight away we can discuss the reason. Okay, fine. We'll take these into consideration. Fine. The first point, role has access to all. So role cannot have access to any BU without giving the permissions to record the transaction. So this means this statement is not applicable. So so role can have access to multiple BUs if the role is application implementation consultant role. As a part of configuration, okay, that role, application implementation consultant role, can have access. But when you talk about the transaction creation, by default, no role will have access to any BU. Same way to all. And another point here we discussed is the reason could be Google user is implementation user. If Google user is implementation user, the Google user can have access to implementation, configuration related area to find all the business units. Being an implementation user, the user can have access to all the business units to do the setups only. Only for setups, the user can have access, but not related to transactions. That means this also not true. And the reason as of now is whatever the current scenario is because of RDS, reference data set. How reference data set, why reference data set, and how to overcome that we'll discuss now. Say for example, we have BU1 and BU2, BU3 and BU4 and BU5 also. Say we have these many BUs. Now, so at the time of BU creation, BU1 creation, say we selected BU1 RDS1. Okay, and BU2 also RDS1, BU3 also RDS1. That means we are assigning, okay, we are assigning RDS, I mean BU1, 2, 3 with the same RDS, and for BU4 you assign common reference data set. For this also assign common. Now say for example, say we have a user called as a role called as payables manager. Okay, payables manager, and we have a user called as Google. Now say we are assigning BU2 to payables manager. The actual name is accounts payables manager, right? Accounts payable manager role we have, right? Say we are assigning BU2 to accounts payables manager role, and again the same role we are assigning to user. Now what system will do is, when this user will log into the instance, this user won't connect directly to the BU which is associated with this role. So to this role, which BU is associated? BU2. So in the system process, what happens is the user will connect to the reference data set, which reference data set is associated to this role related BU. So which role is associated with this BU2? RDS1. Means here you can say BU2 are assigning to RDS1. RDS1 we say at the time of BU creation we select RDS, reference data set. So in our case, just we are taking example as RDS1 we selected for BU2. Now what are the other BUs are associated with RDS1? BU2 and BU3 also. BU1 and BU3 also. So when you select RDS for any BU, we have to understand automatically the BUs will be part of the BUs will be grouped into that RDS. That means BU1, BU2, BU3. Okay, this RDS1 is used by BU1, BU2 and BU3. Now say BU2 you are assigning to accounts payables manager. Accounts payables manager you are assigning to Google user. When Google user will log into the instance, the Google user can have access to application related functionality as accounts payables manager, but Google user never connect to the BU which is associated with the accounts payables manager. Google user will get connected to reference data set which is associated with the BU2, because BU2 only associated with this is associated with this user. So the Google user will connect to accounts payables manager. The Google user will identify to accounts payables manager which BU is assigned. Okay, BU2 is assigned to BU2, which reference data set is associated to that reference data set. User will get connected. The Google user will connect to reference data set to have access to BU. Now when this Google user will connect to RDS, why Google user is connecting to RDS? Whatever the BU we assign to accounts payables manager, for the BU2, RDS1 is mapped. The Google user will get connected to RDS1. So the same RDS1 is associated with how many BUs? For all the BUs the Google user can have access. Now we are able to see many BUs from Google user. The reason is, that means all those BUs, okay, for our BU we assign to Google user through specific roles. In our BU we selected reference data set called as common. So that means our Google user is getting connected to common reference data set. The common reference data set is mapped with how many BUs? All the BUs will be part of that common reference data set. Now our Google user is connecting to common. How many BUs are mapped with the common? All the BUs you are able to see here. That means these all BUs creation time common reference data set only selected. Okay, that means user will have access to business units not based on which BUs you assign to the roles. The user will have access to business units through reference data set. This is the point we have to understand. Okay, to override this, what we have to, what are the different options we have, we will discuss. To understand this point, any question from anyone, please? Okay. BU creation time we are selecting RDS. The BU we are assigning to the role we are assigning to user. For user always will have a connectivity. You will always user will access the BU not based on the role which you are associated directly to that role. What BU is associated, that BU is mapped with which RDS. Based on that point, the user will have access to one or multiple business units. This is the point we have to understand. That means the user will have access to BUs through reference data set. Any question, please?
Lakshman, I have a doubt.
Please go ahead.
Lakshman, no.
Yes, see, I'm saying
Yeah.
go. I'm saying please go ahead, please.
Uh,
See, just you one point, one
yeah.
request, one request. If you have a question, you can ask me directly. Okay, you know, just
Okay.
I have a question or just I need some class. Not required. We are here for that only. Straight away, you can ask the question. We can discuss on that. No issues, please. Yeah, please go
Okay.
ahead.
For a single BU, we can assign for a single BU, we can assign
Your voice is not
based.
clear. I
We
can't.
can.
So, any
Hello.
questions from others, please? I can't hear you. Like, so just I think somebody is speaking, but there's no clarity in the voice. Its voice is breaking. Any questions from anyone, please? Any questions? Fine, no questions. So now we are able to access multiple business units from this user. Okay, we are able to access multiple BUs from this user. The reason is, so all those BUs are mapped with this common. We are connecting to common reference data set only, which is associated with our BU. So that is the reason with how many BUs are associated with the common. For all the BUs, we are able to have access. Okay, so we have to be clear on this point. Now the second point is how to override. Say now your requirement is, if you assign BU2 to accounts payables manager, and if you assign this accounts payable manager to Google user, the Google user should be able to have access to only that BU which BU is associated with the respective role. If that is your requirement, you have to create the separate reference data sets for each BU. So BU wise, you have to create the separate reference data set. Say you have a 10 business units. Create 10 reference data sets. For each BU, you will be associating unique reference data set. Say for BU2, you may create BU2 reference data set. Now at the time of BU2 creation, you will be associating, okay, BU2 reference data set with the BU2. So in that case, this Google user will check for BU2 which reference data set is associated. Which reference data set? BU2 RDS. Now Google user will connect to BU2 RDS To this BU2 RDS, only BU2 you can see as associated. That means through this RDS reference data set, Google user can have access to only that business unit. This is the one point. So if you want to restrict the access, or if you want to give the access to selected business unit only, you have to create the separate reference data set for each and every BU. If not separate reference data set, you are using common only, still you want to restrict, in that case you can go with the security profile. Let's say MOAC. With MOAC also you can restrict. So you can just create security profile by listing only one BU that you associate with the role. That's how that user can be restricted to have access to multiple BUs. Even the BU whatever the user is using, that is associated with the reference data set, called as common. That means whatever user get access to reference data set, the reference data set based access you can restrict by using the security profile, MOAC. And other option is, okay, role level also. Okay, role level also we have restriction. That's a different point. I'll explain at that just when we do that. Generally that we don't use it. So the point here, these 2 points you have to understand. By default, user will have access to the business units, how many BUs are associated with the reference data set. Reference data set based access user will get for BUs. To restrict that, you may create separate reference data set for each BU, so that assigned BU access only user can get for specific roles. Or else you can create, say you might be using common only, or else one reference data set for multiple BUs. Still you want to set a restriction for the user to have access to specific BU only, which we are associating. You can create the security profile. That's how you can restrict. Okay, these are the points we have to understand when we talk about user access to business unit. Any questions on this, please? Any questions from anyone, please? No questions? Fine, good. Fine, done. Now we'll proceed with what we are discussing. So go to invoice workbench. So we are able to access all these business units from this user. The reason, common reference data set. Fine, no issues. Going forward, we'll be testing security profile also. At the time, we'll see how to restrict the access to only our business unit for our user. That will be testing as a part of security profile concept, or say MOAC. For now, this user has access to these many BUs because of common reference data set, no issues. So we can select our BU and we can record the invoices. We can create the invoices. Instead of selecting every time specific business unit, we'll go and set this BU as a default for this user. Any question? I can hear. Yeah, please.
We can assign multiple business units to an RDF. Okay. So under this case, that will group when you are assigning roles. Okay.
Sorry.
See, we can assign multiple OU views to an RDF. No, right? So when it comes to RDF, the user will be assigning the view to RDF. Okay. So if I assign multiple one OU with multiple RDF, how it will take?
See, try to understand. We are not assigning one BU to multiple RDS. Okay, we didn't discuss that point. We are not assigning one BU to multiple RDSs. Okay, one RDS we are using for multiple BUs. This is what we are discussing.
Yeah, that's all.
What is your?
Actually, that's what I'm telling. We can assign multiple RDS over you. Okay. Even I see, for example, I have RDS 1, I have assigned to BU1. RDS2 I am assigned to BU1, RDS3 I am assigned to BU1. Okay, three RDS have been assigned to the same OU. In that case, when my user access to RDS, which OU will take? BU will take.
3 OUs, 3 BUs here, not OUs, BUs. 3 BUs.
BU, yeah.
The 3 BUs. That's what we are discussing. See,
Hello.
if one RDS is mapped with the multiple BUs, that user will connect
Yeah.
to the BU specific RDS. So same RDS used for say 3 BUs. So the user will have access to 3 BUs.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, done. Now, because of that reason, we are able to see multiple BUs here. If you want to record the invoice, if you want to create invoice, all the time you have to select your business unit and you will be just creating the invoice. Again, if you want to create one more invoice, the same process, just we have to go here and we'll be clicking on create invoice. Again, we have to select our business unit. You might be entering the invoices all the time for same BU, but you have to select all the time the BU value. So instead of selecting the business unit every time whenever you create the invoice, we can set business unit as a default for this user. Okay, so similar to this journal category, we'll go and set BU as a default so that every time when you create the invoice, we no need to select system will default. We'll go and do it so that we can understand the profile option. Same profile option, same as EBS. In EBS, we have a profile option called as MO default operating unit profile option. Here we have a profile option called as default business unit. So to set up profile options, you can go to home page search page, just click on setup and maintenance, click on task list, click on search. Okay, here you can search for administrator profile values. There will be a task called as manage administrator profile values. Just click on the task and search for the profile option called as default business unit. Here we have a field called as profile display name. So default profile value. Just click on search. Sorry, default business unit, right? Business unit. Sorry. Search for profile option called as default business unit. Here is the profile option definition. You can see. So here just profile code itself default org ID. You know org ID always refers in EBS also. Operating unit organization ID refers inventory organization. So org ID means BU only. Default org ID. Nothing but default BU. So here for our user, which BU should get default whenever we open any page where business unit selection is applicable. Just click on add. Select profile level. The profile level is only user. Default BU you can set only user level. In case of EBS you can set different level. You can set responsibility. You can set user where different levels we have. Okay. So but here that is not applicable. Only at user level you can set. That's how they given that function. So now we want to default specific business unit for which user. Select our user. Our username is Google. Select BU name. For this user, which business unit should get defaulted. Okay. This is not for specific application, for any application. If this user is going to work on payables and receivables, in payables and receivables, the same BU will get defaulted for this user, okay, based on the process. So Google US Business Unit and say save and close.
Is there rapid implementation available for this profile option?
Sorry?
Rapid implementation available for profile option, setting the BU for the profile.
No.
For setting the
No, we don't have that sheet for profile.
for this
Yes.
profile option. So they have to manually do for
Manually.
each and every.
Yes. Manually have to do this. Fine. Okay, done. So just we set one RBU as default for our user. Now just we can navigate to Invoice Workbench. Just click on Invoices task. Now say create invoice. Okay, so it may take some time. So you can sign out and sign in. And one more point here, this is all you call as infolets. It will let us know some information. It will let some information about this invoice workbench. So here you could see there are scanned invoices which are created 8 to 14 days back and more than 15 days back. And there were no scanned invoices. There were no invoices which are created based on the scanned images 0 to 7 days. And recent invoices. The recent invoices in last 24 hours, no invoice is created. And holds, there are 118 invoices which got placed, which are related to validation issues, and purchasing related with issues holds are placed for these many invoices, and other reasons holds got placed for 3 invoices. And prepaid means prepayments. So 0 to 30 days date range, we have a 2 prepayments. 31 to 60 days, 0 prepayments created in this application. And 61 days plus, more than 61 days back, 24 prepayment invoice are created in this system. This information belongs to which BU? This information belongs to for the BUs, which BUs this user has access. This user got access to many BUs, just now we have seen. So this statistics also related to all those BUs. Now if you create one invoice, now system immediately it will be updating here as a one invoice recent, one invoice in the last 24 hours has got created. So that's how system will update. Okay, so we'll see how to just see here by default it is 24 hours. How to just modify this infolets also will go through in our classes. Okay, just these we call as infolets. Remember the term infolets. So infolets we can just modify as per our requirement also. I'll take you through that. Fine, hope this is clear to everyone. Now we'll see how to create the invoice. Click on task list, say create invoice. Okay, we'll sign out and sign in. Still it is not reflecting the profile option. Now we can go to invoice workbench. So you don't need to follow the navigation from the navigator itself directly. See, once you log into the instance, this is our landing page, home page. Within the home page, whatever these you can see is springboard. This page you can call as springboard. Within that, these all are springboard icons. These icons you will get here based on for which areas this user has access. This user has access to accounts payable application also, right? This user has access to accounts payable application, so that access also you can see here. So if you go to navigator, in navigator you can see payables. Navigator you can see payables. Under payables you can see these three tasks. Payables, under payables we have three tasks. So in the same way here you can see payables with the payables icon. If you click on that, it will expand and it will display those three tasks, which will allow us to go to that respective work area. Now just click on invoices task. It will take us to invoice work area, or call it as invoice workbench. Just click on task list, click on create invoice. Now system should default view. Okay, just click on. Now system is defaulting our business unit because of that profile option. So already we created our supplier. Just select our supplier, and one more point here is, see, so you can type our supplier name. Okay, so just enter supplier name Google. So our supplier name is Google Supplier 1. Now we are selecting supplier. System will default the supplier site. Now if you notice, system is defaulting the supplier site, but system is not defaulting invoice currency. Amount currency here we have to select, it's not defaulting. So for that reason, what we can do is, we can go and set what is the default invoice currency and payment currency for this supplier site. That we have to set as a default. So we'll go and set default invoice currency and payment currency for specific supplier site, so that whenever you create the invoice, system will be defaulting the same. So how to what is the navigation for supplier creation? Go to navigator. Within the navigator you can find procurement. Under procurement, click on suppliers task, and just go to task list and click on manage suppliers to find existing suppliers to do any modifications. So here you can search with the keyword, or else just you can expand the search. You can expand the search. Okay, you can just go with advanced. Advanced means it will open multiple fields. Okay, here only one field. Just we can search with that. We can find our supplier, Google Supplier 1. Search. So we are able to find our supplier. Now click on edit. Click on edit. Go to sites. Click on edit. And go to payments tab. Site level, go to not payment tab, sorry, invoice tab. Go to invoicing tab. Here you could see the controls. So select your invoice currency, with which currency you will be recording the invoices against the supplier site. Say USD. And payment currency, say USD. You can have invoice currency, payment currencies are different, which we call as cross currency payments. That will be testing later. Okay, done. So just specify these currencies defaults, then say save and close. From now, if you create any invoice against this supplier site, system will be defaulting the invoice and the payment currency. At least if you set invoice currency, automatically system, by default system will take invoice currency only as a payment currency. But anyway, we specified both. Now we'll navigate to invoice workbench. Under payables, click on invoices task. So under invoices, click on create invoice. or BU is defaulting. So supplier is Google. You can just type partial name, it will fetch and select, it will default supplier site as well as currency also. See, now system is defaulting the currency. Fine. Done. Now just we can enter the invoice number, say INV1, and invoice type is standard invoice. If you want to write some description, you can write the description. Okay, and these are the default fields in the invoice header level. Apart from this, if you want to specify any other information and if you want to see some other fields where the data is reflecting based on this invoice creation, you can click on show more. Okay, next to invoice header title, you can see show more. Click on show more, it will open the additional information. So these are the details from header. So there are many other fields also you can see. And go to accounting. System will derive the liability account from common options. See, system is taking this liability distribution from common options. We didn't provide for the supplier at site level, right? It's optional. System is not defaulting from common options to site. Even we didn't provide the code combination. When you create the invoice, system derives directly liability account from common options. In case of EBS, always from supplier site. If you provide site level, it will take from site level only. So, and some tax related and additional information is DFF information. So this is how just you can enter the information at a header level. If you want to just add some additional details, you can go to show more. It will open additional fields to enter the relevant information. Done. If you want to just have some attachments to this invoice, okay, you want to attach some invoice copy which you received from the supplier, you can do that. If you want to write some notes related to this invoice, you can write in the header level. Okay, done. Now we'll go and enter the invoice line. Okay, so invoice line amount, say $25,000. Yeah, please.
That attachment, when we upload the file, it goes to UCM or it's just in the application?
No. It will be attached with this document. UCM not to store the data permanently. UCM only for temporary loading process. You can treat as that is a kind of staging interface. Okay.
Okay.
To support the just process, we can use it, not to store the data. Okay. Just along with this information, it would get stored in the database in the respective table with the reference of documents. That's all. Okay, it won't get these attachments, document specific attachments cannot be connected to UCM. Fine. So enter line amount, say 25,000 we are entering. Supplier site level, we selected distribution set as a default, that is defaulting. Since we are selecting distribution set, we no need to enter distribution set, or else remove distribution set, you can enter the manual distribution. So that's how you can enter this information. So since distribution set we have, this 25,000 will get distributed between the accounts whatever we specify. 2 accounts were given in the distribution set. The 25,000 will be distributed between those 2 accounts. That we'll see. So after giving this information, you can click on save. Sorry, we didn't provide an invoice header level amount. Say $25,000. Click on save. Now you can see invoice summary. Here system is opening the invoice summary status. Validation is not validated. Approval is not required because we didn't implement any approvals. We'll see that we'll be implementing. And accounting, unaccounted, paid, unpaid, cancelled, no. This invoice is not cancelled. These are the possible holds on the invoice. So installment holds, no. Line variance, no holds. Distribution variance, no. 0 holds. Manual holds, system holds, supplier level holds. No holds are placed on the invoices. And payments. Due date is, this is the due date for this invoice, since so we are using the payment term as immediate. And payments, so we didn't pay anything against this invoice. Okay, anyway, we have to validate the invoice first. So we'll go and validate the invoice. In case of EBS, we'll find the invoice action tab in the bottom to that invoice creation form. But here you can see the invoice actions on the top. You can click on that invoice action. It will list out all the actions which you can perform on the invoice. Now we have to validate the invoice. Just click on validate. And before that, if you want to see distribution, we can see that. So anyway, it's validated. We'll see the distribution. The distribution here, you have a tab. So once you enter the line information, so that amount your system will distribute if you select distribution set, or else you can enter here manually, or else directly you can, without entering the distribution set or distribution manual distribution line level, you can go to the distribution tab, and for specific line you can enter the manual distribution. Your system is creating this distribution with the help of distribution set. If you want to add one more line in this, you can click on add. If it is going to be manual process, you can do like this. Since we are using the distribution set, not required. Okay, so this is how you can just provide the information, and you can just validate. After that, along with that, you can just go through some other information. Say manage installments. Just click on manage installments. Here you can find you want to make the payment by following which payment method. Okay, the payment method system is defaulting. Check here. From where it is taken from, supplier site level, we set default payment method check. If you want to override, you can override. So these are the installments. Only one installment we have. The due date is this. If you want to split this installment into multiple installments, yes, you can do here. If you want to place hold on this specific installment, yes, you can do that. These are all specifications you can do. If you want to make this invoice need to be paid with a separate check, you may enable at pay alone here, or else set at supplier level. That would get defaulted to all the invoices related to that supplier. Anyway, that will be testing. That is separate concept. Okay, and if you are going to make electronic payments to supplier, you have to provide supplier bank account details also from here only. For that, you have to access to manage installments function. Okay, and just be validated. Now what we'll do is we'll go and account it. Okay, we'll account this invoice. So we know, like, without accounting also we can make the payment. If approvals are mandatory, yes, we have to approve. After approving only you can make the payment. Since no approvals we implemented, now system will allow us to make the payment. So to make the payment, accounting is not mandatory, but we'll just talk about accounting. When you talk about EBS release 12, EBS we have a 3 modes of accounting, right? So draft and final post. These we know very well. Anyone please, what is the purpose of these 3? If you do accounting with the draft, what system will do? With the final, what system will do? In case of final post, how system will respond?
Draft is just preview.
Okay.
And final is it will create accounting, but it will be in the subledger only.
Yeah, real accounting happens in same application.
Same application in subledger.
Yes.
Then final post is it will transfer this data and it will post in GL. Transfer to GL and post in GL.
Yeah, that's true. But when you submit final post, it will create accounting. It will
It will create accounting. Correct. Yeah. Create accounting, transfer, and post. All 3 steps.
Yes. In Fusion, when you just try to do the accounting for any invoice, you can find a draft. The other option is you can find post to ledger. Draft means same as EBS draft. Post to ledger is equal to final post. So there is no option at the time of invoice creation. From invoice, if you want to perform the final accounting by selecting specific invoice, that option we don't have. So only the option is draft or post to ledger. When you select the accounting option as a post to ledger, system will create accounting entries. It will transfer to general ledger and it will post them in the general ledger. So here 3 modes we have, which you can see in the invoice workbench level when you create the accounting, but in the Fusion you can see only 2, draft and post to ledger. Post to ledger is equal to EBS final post. So this is a simple point we have to understand. Now we'll go and see. Fine. So invoice is validated. You can go to invoice actions. So if you want to perform the draft accounting, you can just select this account in draft. System will create draft accounting. And now here you can click on post to ledger. Post to ledger is equal to final post. If you click on final post to ledger, system will create accounting entries. It will transfer to GL. It will post in the GL. So before you perform this, we have to make sure that GL period is open. Yes, in the yesterday session itself, we opened GL period for current month. So now we can proceed with the post to ledger. Just click on post to ledger. So accounting is complete. Okay, accounting entries are created for this, and system will be running the process in ESS job page. If you want to see what jobs the system is triggering for this process, it will be triggering create accounting related, and again it will be just triggering the process which will import the journal entries into GL from SLA to general ledger application. Later it will be running the process called as posting. See now, post online subledger journal entries. This is a job system is triggering, which will enable the process of accounting entries creation and transferring to GL, and import journals. It's importing from subledger application. Now the same journal is getting posted in the GL. The relevant balances are getting updated. Now we can go to GL and we can find the journal. Before that, we'll see the accounting entries from invoice itself. Fine, done. You can go to invoice workbench. Just now we created invoice, right? When you talk about infolets, it should address that invoice. See here it's showing when you come here. So in the recent, in the last 24 hours, there is one invoice which is created. You can click on that number, it will display that invoice below. Invoice INV1 is created. It's validated and it's accounted. And you can see very high level fields information. Payment status not paid. Creation date is this. Last updated date is this. This is a BU. And source of invoice is manual entry invoice. Okay. So manually this invoice is created. Now just click on invoice number. It's almost here more like a drill down option. You can click on some hyperlink number, it will open, since these are web pages. Okay, in case of EBS, there will be some record. You have to select the record, you have to go and click on specific tab to open. But here directly you can click on the record related any one of the specific field, it will open. Now you can see status accounting is accounted. Now if you want to see the accounting entries, so you don't need to just go with some different option here. Directly wherever you see the status as accounted, you can click on that. Click on the status called as accounted. How it is accounted, it will display. Just click on accounted. It shows how it is accounted. So we have a two distribution accounts. Yes, the same system is created. 12,500, 12,500, and the liability account 25,000, which is crediting. Okay, these two are debiting, this is the crediting. That's how it is created. We have a concept called as override account that we'll discuss. So after verifying these accounting entries in the GL in the form of journal. Okay, done. We created invoice and we validated and we accounted. Now we'll go and find this invoice in GL. Since we submitted accounting as post to ledger, system has to submit this information to GL in the form of journal. Switch to GL. Any question? I can hear some.
Lakshman,
Yeah.
can we go to the invoice again? I have questions on that.
Yeah, tell me please.
Okay, so when we just started to create the invoice, without giving any information, it was defaulting the payment term and the term date and one other field. So how was it getting defaulted? We didn't give any information.
Where?
In the invoice.
We given the complete, we created invoice. After creating invoice, we verified payment terms are defaulting. Sorry, payment term you are talking. See, payment terms, when I talk about payment terms, here the payment terms are defaulting with from our reference data set. Okay, I'll show you when you create next invoice. I'll show you that. Only you can have two payment terms which are there within our reference data set. Okay, those are coming from our reference data set. For payment terms, we created separate reference data set, right? That we assign to our business unit. From that only those will get default. Okay, we'll see that in the next invoice creation. We'll see that. Again, we have to open that and all. Just we'll be creating many invoices. We'll touch that point. Okay, now just we created accounting for the invoice. Now you can go to journals. Select our ledger. Say OK. And go to task list. Click on manage journals. Okay. Click on manage journals. Now here you can search with the period. April month, if any journals are imported into GL against invoice or payment that you want to see, so select source as a payables. Search. So you can see there is an invoice against invoice system created on journal for April month. The journal category is purchase invoice. Period is April. Source is payables. Category is purchase invoice. 25,000. Batch status is posted. We know each and every journal treat as a separate batch. Okay. So that's how it will post. You can just click on the journal name. It will open the journal definition, how that is created and posted. You could see this information. Okay. Now we have a 2 debit lines and 1 credit line which are getting balanced. Now if you want to drill down the specific line to source transaction, in case of EBS we have to select specific line, right? The below you could see one tab called as line drill down. That's how you can drill down. But here, since this journal creation and data we are just managing with a web page, so we don't have such kind of tabs. The option here is directly you can click on the line amount. It will drill down to source transaction information. Okay, so for example, you want to drill down this line which is created with the $12,500. You just click on amount. Okay, so it is showing that is related to payables and account description for this account code combination, and these are the details like on accounting date and invoice number and amount. Invoice is validated and attachments are none, and you can just expand that section. Same as EBS. In EBS also in the same way you can see that it's related to which supplier and supplier site name and invoice amount, currency, etc. All you could see from here, more information. And if you want to see the detailed transaction, you can click on view transaction. So this is the original transaction, how that was created. So you can see the detailed information. So we are accessing this invoice from this ledger. From this ledger means with this ledger, the invoice is associated with this business unit. Okay. So this is just now when we drill down to any subledger related source transaction, we know only the access is read only, right? Same is applicable. So if you want to view the distribution, you can view the distribution also. Any payments happened against this invoice, that also you can verify. No payments, right? Just this is invoice, and invoice type is standard. So this is how you can drill down from GL to payables. Just click on done. Just click on done. So that's all. Fine. Cancel. Now say for example, so now we noticed when you look at this invoice, say GL department is noticed or payables department is noticed as the wrong account is used or wrong department is used. Okay, say for example, we used wrong account here. So this account is which account? Software expense. By mistake, user selected software expense account. Reality, it's not software expense, some other expense. But invoice is created, validated, accounted as well as transferred to GL also. And that got posted. The journal also posted in GL. But still, you can override the account. That process you can initiate from payables. In payables, invoice level, you can override this account. Okay, once you perform the override, automatically system will be reversing this account related line with the corrected line. Okay, that we'll see. We'll just go to payables.
But we have one question. So if we go to payables and we override this account, in case we have the approvals enabled in payables or GL, if we have approvals enabled, in that case, does the override requires approval? Can we enable the approvals for override so nobody can do it without approval?
Approvals not required, validation is not required, accounting is not required, nothing is required. Whatever the current status you have, in that status you can go and change it. Okay, just you are changing the account only. That is possible without any additional validation again and approvals and accounting. Directly you can do that. Yeah.
In case the business has a requirement that they want the approval to be enabled, is that something that is provided functionality in cloud?
Not possible. Okay, we don't have a function in that way. So for this kind of actions, we cannot set up approval. Okay, so if it is an on-premise environment, you can write your own business rules and you can do some sort of customization. You may write some custom PLL. Okay, so more very deeper personalizations you can do in case of on-premise. If not on-premise, in case of PaaS model, you can do all those things. Not in the SaaS.
Okay.
Yeah. Go to invoice workbench. So now this is invoice which we created. Just open this and click on this. Now go to accounting section. Okay, just click on accounting. Okay, so now just you can click on the status called as accounted. So now say these are the accounting entries which you could see, the debit 2 lines, credit 1 line, the same we just accounted and transferred to GL and posted in GL. Now the requirement is, if you look at this first account, just browsing 1 second. Yeah. So if you place the cursor on that, you can see that account code combination description. 1 second. Yeah, we'll just look at that second account. 64220 software expense account. Say this is the wrong account, user selected. Now you want to override. So if that is a requirement, what you can do is select this account code line and click on override account. Click on override account. So now system will ask us, you want to override this existing code combination with which code combination? But here the condition is you should not change the balance and segment value. Okay, the company value you should not change. So this is the actual code combination, current account. You want to override with which account? That account you can select. So you just search for the account. It contains, we can find many expense accounts. So software expense we selected, but we want to make it as some other expense. So it's a contractor expense. Select it. Now say OK. Then specify the reason. Just nothing, just it's a correction. User selected wrong account. So that we are correcting, that's all. Submit. Now see here, see the journal entry line has been overridden with the new account. Schedule process, so request is submitted. So whatever we changed here, that system will be triggering and it will be updating in the GL also. So now here also you can see the same. So it is just pointing these lines. So this line, okay, we just overridden with this account combination. 1 second. Okay, it's not displaying immediately. So this is a line which we just created by overriding this account. And which account we overridden, like 64220, right? That got reversed. Okay, that got reversed. Now this impact you can see in the GL also. You can just here see we are not accounting, we are not again validating, we are not accounting, nothing. Just already it's validated, accounted, and if approval is done, just it's that will remain same. Now you can go to GL and you can find the journal. You can see the difference. Switch to GL. Just click on task called as journals. And go to task list, click on manage journals to find out the existing journals. So select period as a current month, April. Select source as a payables. Search. Now you can find one more journal which is a reversal journal. See, this is the 25,000 journal which we created based on the invoice, and now system created separate journal with 12,500 because for only one line only we did the override option in the payables. If you look at this journal, you could see as system reversed it. So earlier in that original transaction, the software expense account is debiting, right? So now you could see system is credited that to nullify and to make zero. So that software expense account is credited. That's how it will get knocked off with the existing journal debit line, and the system will take into consideration this contractor expense by debiting. Whatever this account earlier it was debited in the journal, to reverse it, it created credit line. That result would be zero. Then this it will take into account. Yeah, please.
So making the payment also we can override the GL account.
Yes. I'm about to say that after completing this. Yes, for payment also this is applicable. After making the payment also you can override the account. Okay, you are not changing the document, that functionality anyway.
Lakshman.
Yeah.
Lakshman, if the GL period is closed, what happens in this case?
GL period is closed. If GL period is closed, see any scenario what system will create or we can do only in open period only. That rule is applicable. So normally, like in the same period, if you want to do it, you can do it, or else you can do in the later period. If you do in the later period, there will be some reconciliation variance will come into picture. So ideally, just normally this there is a need of doing immediately, will be doing. If you realize in the very later point of time, yes, you can do it, but that will happen in the latest open period only. The current period, when you do that, it will reflect accordingly. Okay. it cannot happen in the previous periods which are closed because you have a transaction in the past period.
Lakshman,
Yeah, please.
Sorry, go ahead.
So if we want to track these accounts that are overridden, is there a way we can track it, like by specifying a status, or is there a way of tracking it? Like if we want to see in 1 month with how many accounts somebody overridden?
Yeah, definitely. You can you can go with the specification table level. Definitely, you can find the information in the table level. Okay, so you can go with some BA report. There, just you specify the columns with which criteria you want to fetch the report. That's how easily you can get it. Okay, fine. Any other question?
Lakshman, in EBS, after accounting, if we want to change the accounting, the only option is to do undo accounting technically and then do the change in the account string, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So we can, we can discard the line. There are different ways we try, but this is how just they simplified the process without doing different workarounds. Yeah, fine. So this is all about just invoice creation and accounting and how that accounting can be, how that accounting we can override. So these are the point. The same override option is applicable for payment also. Okay, payment also. Now just let's switch to payables invoice workbench. Go to invoices and just select here. Okay, select that invoice. You can see here. See, from here also you have an option to create the new invoice. You can click on create and you can create it. And from here also you can select invoice. You can validate if you want to cancel. Post to ledger if it's not accounted. Fine. Just open this invoice by clicking on invoice number. See, there was some question, right? So see, what happening is system is selecting this payment terms as immediate. Reason, within our reference data set, which is associated with our business unit, the two payment terms are there. Out of that, this is the one which we created. This is a system created. The system created, they just set as default if it is available in any reference data set. I'll just cancel undo. I'll take you through create so that you can understand. Just click on create. Now, why system is defaulting? Okay, the payment term, that was the question. The system is defaulting this payment term because our business unit is selected. Because our business unit is selected, that is the reason defaulting. For this business unit, we associated reference data set which is created and associated where we assign the payment terms. Because of BU, the payment terms are defaulting. That's it. Yep.
In our case, we assigned immediate and our custom payment term.
Correct.
So this standard immediate payment term is getting defaulted. But in case we have like multiple.
One second.
Yeah.
See, that is defaulting because we just selected in the setups. The setups that was there as a default.
Okay.
When we did the payable setups, right? In the payable setups, we have invoice options, right? So and common options. Those level just the payment term called as immediate was already defaulted. We have seen also, right? Just we discussed. So we created. See, this is how only these two are defaulting, right?
Yes.
It was selected as a immediate over there. That is the reason that is getting system defaulted. As we know, the immediate is system created. Predefined one in the environment. You select in those setup level your own custom created payment term that would get defaulted here. That you map those options are specific to BU. Now here BU, once BUs get selected, that will get defaulted. That's how it works. Okay, fine.
We were saying that the the currency is not going to get defaulted unless we assign it at the supplier level.
Yes.
But I'm confused, like why is the currency not defaulting from the BU? Because BU is associated to the ledger, so why it's not defaulting the functional currency from the ledger?
No, simple point. Here, now system is defaulting the currency. Now, as of now, as per current configuration, system is defaulting the currency. Why it is defaulting the currency?
Because it's associated at the supplier level.
Sorry?
Because we assigned it at the supplier level later on.
Not
so
supplier level, supplier site level. Right? Site level.
Yes.
Site level we set, not supplier level, site level we set. And why it is not defaulting for specific BU? The reason is one business unit can have business transactions with the different country suppliers. There could be some business units, you may see the business unit, the operations they have in India, but their all suppliers are in foreign. In that case, if we think whenever we create the transaction for the BU, INR should get defaulted, that may be wrong expectation. So that is the reason it's always just good practice if currency is defaulting from supplier. The supplier belongs to, see, you have a supplier. Supplier is ABC supplier. Say ABC supplier has operations in 10 countries. So you might be dealing with that supplier in 5 countries. So if you select supplier, which country currency should get default? There is no meaning if specific country currency is defaulting. You are dealing with the same supplier in 5 countries. But 5 countries will have 5 sites. So based on site selection, currency should get default. Okay. In EBS, how it happens? How currency will get default when you create the invoice? That's slightly different from what happens in Fusion. In EBS, what happens? In payables, we have a global setup called as payable system setup. There you can specify the default payment term and default currency. Whenever you create the supplier, from payable system setup, the currency will default to that supplier. Header, from header to site to invoice. That's how it happens in EBS. But in Fusion, we don't have that payable system setup functional, that definition. So that is the reason when you create the supplier, no currency is getting defaulted until unless you select. Okay, that's a slight point. The simple point we have to understand when you talk about this defaulting, how that works in EBS and here. Okay, fine, done. We'll see like how to make the payment for this invoice. Yeah, we'll go with the painful option. Later we'll see how to create the payment by selecting all the attributes. Okay, it's validated and accounted. Now to make the payment for this invoice from invoice workbench itself, you can just go to invoice actions, say painful. So select your payment process profile, that is Google payment process profile, and select payment document is Google check, and the payment number we given as a next number should be 1. Yes, that is going to be first. Click on submit. System will create the payment record against this invoice. Okay, now just we are creating the payment with the painful option, and going forward we'll be creating the payment from payment workbench also, and we'll be working on PPR also. Now you see the status as paid, and how much is paid? 25,000. Done. Now if you want to see the same payment record from the payment workbench, you can say save and close. You can go to payments task. It will take us to payments work area, and click on task list. Click on manage payments. Okay, find payment with the supplier criteria. You can specify the supplier, say Google. Just tab out, it will fetch, it should fetch. Then click on search. For the supplier, any payment is recorded that you could see here. Okay, so against this payment record, you can perform all these actions. If you want to void this payment, you can void, or you can initiate the stop. Okay, if you initiate the stop, you can just, if you just initiate the stop, and you can again you can reissue, whatever the reason. Like again, if you want to reissue the payment, say you voided it, you want to reissue the payment against this. So just whatever, like what kind of action you want to do, all those you can perform. If you want to create accounting and transfer to GL, say post to ledger, it will create the accounting entries, it will transfer to GL, it will post the accounting entries. If you want to see the view accounting, you can see from here for this payment. Not required, say okay, we can see directly in GL also. And if you want to see the record of the payment, you can click on the payment number, nothing but check number. Since we are using the payment method as check, this is the record. For this payment record, paid invoices, how much? With one document, we paid for one invoice only. This is the invoice number. And yesterday again is that if so any past activities you did apart from this and all other you can see here. So this is how just you can make the payment by using the painful option. Okay, so in the next further sessions we'll see how to record the payment and how to select the invoices for payment automatically through PPR, payment process request. We'll be testing all those scenarios. So here if you want to override, so go to view accounting. So you want to override the specific account here. So you want to override this account. Select this account, click on override. You can change accordingly. The information which is already reflected in the GL, that will get reversed and it will get updated with this account. So that's how you can create the invoice and payment. We have many just scenarios which we are going to test, where we do the required configuration and we'll be testing. So just we tested standalone, the two standalone invoice creation, and just we create payment creation process. No, that we'll see manually. We have to select all the information. We'll see. Just we completed this invoice creation. The payment anyway, just we did pay in full. That is not a great task. Just that's all. Okay. So this PO based invoice creation we'll see a bit later. After completing the payables, we'll test the PO based. For that we need a complete P2P cycle configuration. For now we'll be marking as a pending. This will mark as a pending, and in the next session we'll continue from here. How to create the invoices through spreadsheet. In EBS we have that web ADI functionality, but not for payables. Web ADI we have for journals and assets when you talk about financials. So we don't have any web ADI functionality for payables or receivables application, but in the Fusion we have the web ADI functionality for payables and receivables also, but that here we call as ADFDI. ADFDI, application desktop framework data integrator. Okay, so we'll see that. Before we go and do work on it, we'll just discuss and we'll proceed. So any questions from today's session, please?
Changing the yeah, please go ahead.
Go ahead, it's okay.
No question?
Sorry, I was on mute. So, Lakshman, changing the due date and on the payment priority, the priority numbering, those kind of things are still available in.
Yeah, still same. So see, the functionality wise, when you create specific document, anything, any application, what you could do in EBS, the same you can do here. Okay, that is.
But the payment schedules tab was missing. But the payment schedules tab was missing.
That's what payment schedules tab here you could see as a manage installments. Schedules nothing but installments. That's what I taken through that, right? After creating invoice, go to invoice actions, click on. Okay. Just click on what I can say, manage installments. There you can find it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the same. Any other questions, please?
Actually, making the payment, we can make a part payment for the invoice.
Sorry?
While making the invoice payment, we can make a part payment as only full.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. In that case, say for example, you have this invoice with 25,000. Say you didn't pay it. You want to make the payment. When you are making the payment from here, you can go with the pay in full option. If you go with the pay in full, you have to pay full payment. Otherwise, here only you can split. Okay, same like what is applicable in EBS, same applicable here also. So you want to just make payment 10,000 now, later 15,000. In that case, you can split. You can make two schedules. Otherwise, you don't want to make two schedules. You want to keep as one schedule. At the time of payment, you select this invoice. System will default 25,000. There you can select payment amount as 10,000. You will be able to pay. I'll show you at the time of payment creation time. Okay, possible.
When we made the when we accounted this invoice and posted it to GL, I saw that the amount for the USD currency was grayed out, but the amount was still open for editable.
Sorry.
After we posted after we accounted and posted, the USD currency was grayed out, but the amount was still open as an editable field.
GL.
After invoice was posted to GL,
That's what I'm
when we came back and looked at the.
Are you talking about the in GL it's happening, or what? Where, in which application you are referring? Which record you are referring?
Invoice. In invoice.
In invoice.
In invoice, yeah. The invoice currency was grayed out, but the amount was open as an editable field.
1 second. Yeah, show me which one you are referring. Hello.
I see right now. So right now the amount of 25,000 at the header level, it's grayed out, right? But before I saw it was open. It was not grayed out. Only the USD currency was grayed out, but the amount for 25,000 was open as an editable field. So I wanted to understand, like, at what point we can make the change to the currency and the amount, and at what time we cannot. So is it like when
you tell me
transaction goes to GL, like
you tell me the relevant statement in EBS. I'll say that is the same case here also. So you just now we verified, right? Just invoice created, account transfer to GL and all, everything got freezed, and you are telling it's open, and I don't see anywhere. Okay. 1 second, just you can wait for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. If you have many questions, we'll discuss. But just let me take the questions from other participants. Once we're done with that, I'll complete. Any questions from other participants, please?
Lakshman?
Yeah.
Lakshman, today is the first session of my class. I actually joined newly. So today's session is payables transaction going on. So I just want to understand that you have completed GL configuration, payable configuration, and GL transactions. Am I right?
GL configuration means not complete configuration. From GL side, we created just primary ledger, and we started with the payables. We completed payables configuration. Just we created invoice today. That's all. And if you have EBS knowledge or experience, you may continue. If you don't have that knowledge or experience, we don't suggest to just continue.
Okay.
You don't get any benefit. You may understand many points.
I got it.
You don't get
okay.
Fine.
Okay, I have actually EBS R12 knowledge.
Okay.
So
fine. In that case, you can go through the previous recorded videos and you can understand, and you will be able to connect to current discussions.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Fine. Any other questions from others? Okay. So no questions. We can wind up the session for today. Who has questions, they can stay back. The rest of guys may drop from the meeting, or else you may just be part of the meeting. Okay. So please, now any questions, any sort of questions, we can spend time and we can discuss now. Any questions from anyone, please?
Lakshman, same question I wanted to confirm. So in EBS, when the transaction is posted to GL, I don't think we can make any changes to the currency or the amount. But here, I think I saw we could change the amount, but not the currency.
Please.
I might be, but now I don't see it. Just wanted to confirm.
1 second. I just, based on your statement only, I opened the invoice, right? Right. Show me which point you are referring, which field you are referring, so that we can discuss. If you say, I think,
okay,
I can understand
it's
what
actually
I can help you on. You show me like which one you are referring. I opened the application which you are using and which you are discussing. So this is the page you are referring. I'm asking you, show me where.
It's 25,000 at the header level. Before I was seeing it was editable, but now I see it's grayed out. So next time I'll just point out when I see it. No worries.
Okay. Fine, done. So any other questions from anyone, please?
I have one question.
Yeah.
But it's not from the class. Actually, yesterday,
Fine, no questions. We can wind up for today. We'll connect in the next session. Thank you all. Have a good day and good night.